Today is Monday, October the 23rd, 2017. And I'm going to give a little walkthrough of, what do I call it, baseline SEO. In other words, if you're going to build a house, you got to build the foundation first. So this is like the concrete slab of the house. It is by no means all of what you have to do with SEO to achieve massive profitability. And if you miss these simple steps, then achieving profitability is, it's possible. It's just going to be way more time consuming and expensive. And also, it's going to be much more difficult to retain your profitability. And when I say profitability, really what I'm talking about is your SERP, your search engine report position. So SERP means where you show up in search results. So I'm going to show you this keyword that I've been working for years, because this keyword, well, here, I'll just show you. Wetware hacking. Now, when I first started using this keyword, there were 40,000 results. Now we're down to 27,000. So what that means is that anything I do with this domain, wetware hacking, the first domain here is the domain that I've been working with for years. I like this keyword because there's no profitability in the keyword itself. However, the ecosystem of links is so low, 27,000, that anything I do with this domain to affect SEO, I can actually see. Because moving a domain around SERP-wise within an ecosystem of only 27,000 links is way easier than something like Hypnosis that has, millions of links. Now, I'm going to show you, if you think this is only for domains like this, take a look at these results. Radical Health. Now, this domain ranks number 1 out of 139 million links. And if you look there, the first top 3 are links off my site. Now, let's look at my name. 149 million links. And if you look at all the listings, I mean, most of these listings relate directly to me. And this is another trick, is if you're trying to control page 1 SERP wise of a particular key phrase, then the way you do that is by posting content to sites which are going to place on page 1 that relate to you. So, for example, if you take a look here, here's Radical Health is actually out positioning my domain davidfavor.com. Here's an article about me. Here are images about me. Here's my books on Amazon, my Udemy profile, Twitter profile, Facebook, LinkedIn. Here's some Google stuff. And if you start drilling down through pages here, then you start finding YouTube type videos. You find my Clarity profile. The point is here, looks like that once you get to page 3, some of this starts breaking down, and there's still a lot about me here, and some of this starts breaking down. So about page 3 or 4, it starts breaking down. Now, the reason I mentioned those other 2 domains, let's go back to wetware hacking, is this particular technique works for pretty much any key phrase. And I'm not running any traffic to any of these key phrases. These are all natural links. Now, what's curious about wetware hacking here is that I'm going to tell you the history of this domain. when I put up the domain wetware hacking, first off, I couldn't believe that the domain was available, because wetware hacking, the first recorded mention of this term was way back in 1954. So this term has been around for ages. There are books written. In fact, I've got Ruddy Rucker's book here. I'm just looking at the where. I guess it's called I guess it's a tetralogy, because there are 4 books, and one of the books inside the where cycle or sequence of books is wetware hacking. So this term has been used a long time, and I'm going to show you here some SEO data that'll show you what I was competing against. When I first put up this domain, I set up HTML on the domain that actually validated inside the XML validator, or the HTML validator, which I'll get to in a minute. And I'd had this domain for 5 or 6 months, and I couldn't get it up into the top 500 links. In other words, it was someplace at 501 or farther, because 500 was as far as I could go inside of Google searching. In other words, Google only gives you 500 links, and I don't even know, that was a long time ago, so they may not even do that anymore. My point is, though, that even doing valid syntax with a domain name direct match to my search term, I could not get this domain out of the 500 plus position inside of search results. I made one change to the HTML, and I'm going to show you what that is here in a minute, and I went to page 1 within a day. Oh, actually, I'd have to go back and look at my notes. It might have been 2 or 3 days. I'm pretty sure, though, that it was a 24-hour deal. And in that 24 hours, I went to like link 9 or 10 on page 1, and I was astounded. And then I made a few other minor changes, and I went up to, I bounced around between number 1 and number 3 in the positioning. So here's the rules that I would suggest when you're doing your SEO that you follow. Number 1, read the featured snippet data inside of Google about how featured snippets are done. And let me just show you what a featured snippet is. Let's see, how to speed up WordPress. So this is what I do now. In fact, I ought to change my, whoops. Oh, look at this. Look at all these ads here that Google is putting up here. Here's the featured snippet that shows up, how to speed up WordPress. Now, I really need to do a competing checklist here, because a bunch of these items are just wrong that Sparing Mind has here. But this is what's called a featured snippet, and the way featured snippets work is you basically ask a question, how to speed up WordPress, and that becomes your title and your first one, H1 tag on the page, how to speed WordPress, and then H2 tags are the answers. And if you do that and you get one of these links here, this link click-through rates are roughly 30 to 40% higher when you have a featured snippet than if you were just the first person in the link list here. So all the work that I'm doing now is targeting featured snippets, and I'd recommend that you do the same thing on your content. In other words, it's very easy to arrange your content in a question and answer format. So you pick a question that matches a direct match of a question that people ask on Google. Now, if you notice here, look at this site here, Sparing Mind Speed Up WordPress. Now, if it was me, I would set up something like davidfavor.com/how to speed up WordPress, or WordPress speed up checklist. So this is another thing, is the how can I say this? The kernel of the question you're asking is best expressed in the first 3 words of your link. In other words, I could say how to speed up WordPress, which would probably be okay, and I might try that. And more than likely, if I said WordPress speed up or speed up WordPress checklist, then that might net me higher SEO traction. These are all experiments that you'd have to do. My guess is, though, if you did do something like how to speed up WordPress, which is also a direct match of the question, then you're going to be way far ahead. Now, in the case of WordPress, for example, if you use WordPress, the term WordPress in a domain, then Automatic, which are a bunch of, I mean, I love WordPress, the code base, but the principles of Automatic are less than the most ethical people, I'll just say, based on the random attacks they make on people in their own community. So if you use the word WordPress inside this in your domain name, they'll sue you. So be sure that if you're using something like WordPress that you can get sued, that you use an acronym like WP. So I would say maybe, in fact, I've registered some domains around this topic, that it would be something like how to speed up WP or something like that. I can't remember the domains I've registered, but anyway, you basically get the idea. And then when you create your link, then the link actually matches the question that you're asking there. So now now that covers featured snippets. So back to wetware hacking. So now this is the #1 link out of 27,000 links. Look at the content on this page. It's basically nothing. I mean, I'm seriously, this is, if you read this content, it's just something I slapped up here, and this content hasn't changed. I haven't changed this content for, I don't know, 5 years. What is this? Is 2017? Yeah, 2012. Maybe even 7 or 8 years. I'm unsure. I have to go back and look through my notes. It hasn't changed in a very long time, and it's basically nothing. It's a placeholder. So if I were approaching this inside a niche where I couldn't get a direct domain name match, for such as wetware hacking, because I got the domain, so you can't get that. So if you're going to compete with me in wetware hacking in the space, you would set up something like wetware hacking how to, or wetware hacker how to, or wetware hacking checklist, or something like that. And then your question would be, notice my question here, what is wetware hacking? In fact, this would be really curious. Let's see, what is wetware hacking? Maybe I have a featured snippet for this. Nope, it looks like a project I did with Ryan Levesque years ago comes up for wetware hacking. Now, see, what I really need to do is I need to go back and change this to put a stub for a question, what is wetware hacking, off this, and create an H1 and H2 format like I talked about. So there's no content here. However, take a look at what turns up when you do this. Document checking complete, no errors or warnings to show. That's what you want. So that's an absolute must if you're looking for SEO traction. Here's another must. Let's go back to the site here, and I'm going to hit view source. Now here's what I learned. See this construct here where I've got the H1 tag inside of a header tag? And if you look here at the content, so what is wetware hacking? Join all these big headings here. Notice they're all H1 tags. H1, H1, H1. Now, If you put H1 tags in here that aren't surrounded by headers, that's a syntax error, and this page would take a nosedive inside the index. Because Google, contrary to all the myth in the marketplace, treats HTML syntax gives much more weight to that than most people think. So your syntax has to validate, and also it has to be HTML5 syntax. So this was another thing that I did to get my to go from someplace 500 plus SERP to number 8 or 9 in a day or 2 or 3. Was I changed from I was using XML, and I changed to HTML5, which is this tag here, doc type HTML. And I also changed all my headers from one H1 followed by H2s to all H1s wrapped in header tags. And that's what took me out of the nosebleed section onto page 1. So those little tips will give you some really good useful information to work with. Now, let's take a look at this validator here. Let me show you something else while I'm doing it here. If we go back here and look at this sparing mind link here, I'm just going to put this into the validator, and then I'm going to click outline. So here's how, anytime you find a featured snippet, if you wonder what they're doing, most people aren't really actually targeting featured snippets, they just accidentally happen onto them. If you'd like to know what they're doing, though, you can actually click this outline here, and you can get an outline of their site. Now these guys, I can also tell just by glancing at this that if I wanted to go up against Sparing Mind and target getting the featured snippet for how to speed up WordPress, it would be very easy, because they have syntax errors. So they've got syntax errors here, which these are pretty innocuous. So those probably aren't going to hurt too bad. What is going to hurt, though, is this right here. This whole format is completely wrong. Their H1 tag is missing, and then they have an H2 tag, which is broken HTML. That's syntactically incorrect, and then they have an H1 tag. So having an H2 before an H1 that's broken syntax. And then having H2s and then all their answers to their questions, their bullets, as H3s, that's going to be carry a lot less weight than if I created a page that was valid HTML syntax with the actual page stub. In other words, the link of the page was how to speed up WordPress, and then the title tag matched that, and the first H1 matched that, and then after that H2s were the bullets of how to answer that question, and the page was 100% syntax correct. So if you follow those really simple things, really simple topics, and also if you can't register a direct match domain name, if you're going after a niche that's highly competitive, if you can register a name that has the direct match for a common search within the name. For example, say you're say you're doing local SEO marketing. I've got a bunch of domains registered for this. How to do local marketing, maybe. I don't know if that domain's registered or not. Brick and mortar SEO checklist. That's probably not registered. Or local SEO business checklist. So you're not really looking for something that someone's going to type into their browser bar to go visit a site. What you're looking for is something that's going to rank inside of Google that somebody's going to click on. So think about how to come up with a domain name that if possible, is a direct match for one of the most common searches within your particular niche. And that'll also give you a lot more SEO traction. And then if say you've got a name, like if I was going to do, say I was going to write an article about how to speed up WordPress under my domain davidfavor.com, then I would just do davidfavor.com/how- to speed up WordPress with dashes in between. Because if you look here, see I guess I should talk about that too. See these dashes here? A dash is a delimiter, so this will help Google's bot to correctly parse the idea behind your site. So rather than saying how to speed up WordPress as a string of characters, you break up each word with a dash so that the dash delineates what are the word boundary breaks, and you'll get far more SEO traction in most cases. Now, for common words like how to speed up WordPress, Google's search engine could probably their search engine bot technology to index links will probably figure that out. But for some other niches and questions, Google's search engine might not be able to break up the words correctly. And if the bot doesn't break up the words correctly to index them based on a particular concept, then you've just lost your first step of SEO traction. So my suggestion is that you also, when you're creating your links, that you put dashes there to break up your words. Some people will suggest underscores. There's really not any definitive ideas about that. My guess is you could probably put almost any special character in there, like a pound sign or whatever, and it would be all right. I particularly like dashes because I think it's easier to look at when a person's reading and they see underbars. That sort of jars psychology, and you can try this yourself. You can write a link with underbars and a link with dashes and see if it's visually more aesthetically appealing to you. And if it slows down or speeds up your ability to glance at the link and move on. Typically, underbars causes a person to stop and look at it and wonder, whether they consciously understand it or realize it or not, they're wondering about what the heck those underscores are, because underscores look weird. So if I change this to underscores here, I mean, you can just see that it looks odd because the underscores are not, they're on the serif line of the bottom of the words, and if you look at that, it causes a slowing down. And the first rule of all marketing is anything that slows a person down and makes them stop gives an opportunity to allow that person to leave your conversion process. So you're always looking for cadence or rhythm that speeds up a person's process going through your content, rather than ever doing anything that slows down. So you avoid any slowdowns and go for anything that's a speed up. So I think that's probably, I was going to show, let me show you a little bit of data here for wetware hacking. Let's see, can I make this thing bigger? No, this is it. So this is data out of Market Samurai right now. And okay, so the domain's 6 years old, so that means that 2017 minus 6, I must have registered this in 2011 instead of 2012. And when I got this domain on page 1, this domain age here was a dash. In other words, it was so new that it was less than a year old, and it was still competing with. Look at these. Look at the ages on these domains: 12 years, 21 years, 1810, and look at the incoming links: 8 million, 49 million. I'd be curious to even see what that video is. Okay, I gotta see what it is. Becoming cyborg. Okay, well, I'll have to go back and look at that later. But anyway, the point is you've got all these incoming links, and if you look at this data here, some of this data is from an SEO standpoint, an SEO expert would tell you that if I'd gone to most SEO experts and said, I'd like to go after the wetware hacking keyword and monetize that space, they would have looked at this data here and they'd said it was impossible because, pardon me, I hate to say this, but this is what I'm going to wrap up with. Most SEO type people are completely clueless about baseline SEO. In other words, the starting point of SEO, what they're focused on are doing things like running paid traffic, Facebook ad campaigns, social media cruft, things that they can charge you a monthly fee for that you always have to have them on retainer to pay them to do the work. What I'm talking about here with baseline SEO is this is how you get on page freaking 1 in most cases for doing an increment of work and then forgetting it. I haven't changed the content on this site for, well, it says 6 years. The last time I remember working on this was right after I got on page 1, and I haven't changed the content since. So this content hasn't changed in 6 years, and it's a one-page site. So there's no other content on the entire site that's indexed, only one page. So most SEO type people that you're going to pay will tell you it would be impossible to go up against, for example, a site with 21 years of age on the domain and 8 million incoming links, or 12 years with 500 million links coming in. What I'm telling you is all this is a bunch of junk. It's hooey and lies, because if you look at my primary domains, wetware hacking is just one random example. Radical Health and David Favor, though, are the sites I primarily generate my income from, and they're really ugly sites. They're mainly meant for people to find me and be able to contact me easily. My point is, if you do baseline SEO correctly, then you're so far ahead of the game that you can do things like compete with 18, 12, 21 years of age domains with millions of or thousands of incoming links, and you'll win. So I'm guessing the reason I'm in the number 1 spot here is that it looks like other people are linking to me. God knows why. Oh, I got to have my majestic stuff set up. Let's see what this CF is. Citation flow. So people are citing my website. Good Lord. So people are doing citations to a one-page website. Trust flow. People that have highly trusted domains are linking to me. More than likely, they're linking to me because of the exact matched domain name. So they're doing things like using linking systems that create links to topics like wetware hacking, and then these linking systems are going and pulling out of the Common Crawl data set or Google or Bing data to see that there's a website by that exact match domain. And so they're doing links to me, or they're doing automatic links to me for specific high quality content without vetting their links. So they're sending me SEO juice without actually vetting that I've actually got something here. So if I could figure out a way to make some money off wetware hacking, maybe I ought to do that. I could probably put up a minimal amount of content and rake in a substantial amount of cash. So anyway, that's just wrapping up by giving you a little bit of data here about SEO traffic. And you ought to pick up a copy of Market Samurai. I mean, it's only $100 or something ridiculous, and just make sure that you've got some idea of how your domain is tracking compared with all other domains. So you can look at things like all these indicators, and especially the title, URL, description, and head. In fact, this is another important thing to get right is to, I won't go over what those are, but you can look them up, is to make sure that your your web page tag contains the keyword. I guess I can just go over them here. The URL, which is either the domain name or the post slug or page slug you're using, contains the key phrase. Your description page, your meta description contains the key phrase, and also your first H1 tag. They say H1, H2, H3. I prefer to go the featured snippet route at this point in time, and make sure that your page slug, title, and H1 tag all match the exact question that is being asked that got a person to your site. So anyway, that's just a quick overview of what I call baseline SEO. Oh, I guess one other thing that is part of baseline SEO that's extremely important is to also go through the Google domain verification process and put Google Analytics on a page also, because those are two other things that are, I mean, they basically take you a few seconds to do, and you may not use them in the beginning, and they make a huge difference adding to your overall SEO, all the signals that Google looks at to rate your page SEO wise. And then the other simple thing you can do, which is, a one-time few-minute activity, is make sure that your hosting supports HTTP2 and that your site is SSL wrapped. And I guess my site's SSL. Yeah, so my site's SSL, and I'm guessing if we'll run this here as a last step. It'll take a few minutes to run this. Let's see, is this I don't even know if this is an HTTP2 site. I'm guessing it is. Yes, my little lightning bolt is on here, so this is an HTTP2 site, and the SSL tester is running now. And in fact, you can see there also, these are really simple things to do. For example, this site uses a 496-bit key instead of 2048, which is a is a Google signal that they don't tell you about, and nobody will tell you about because they don't know. DNS CAA records. 99% of all sites are configured incorrectly and don't have their CAA records set up, and there's no, at least at this point in time, October 23rd, 2017, no major hosting or CDN system or DNS hosting system correctly supports CAA records. So if you look here, the score I'm getting is an A+, and this is the way I arrange my scores is 100, 95, 100, 100. And this protocol support, I set at 95% because this allows old Android 4.x devices to connect to all my sites. So that's very important because Android 4X devices are roughly 30 to 40% of the entire marketplace of mobile devices right now. So if this was at 100, then none of the protocols for those old devices would be supported. So I've actually consciously downgraded my protocol support to encompass or allow old Android 4 devices to connect. Now, the DNS CAA should be on. Trusted should definitely be on. And here's some other things. Very shortly, TLS 1.3 I'll be running for all my sites, and I'll retire TLS 1.0 because 1.0 is actually retired. And if you have SSL 2 or SSL 3, if either one of these say yes, you'll lose all your SEO traction instantly. And if you look down through here, my sites don't support a lot of these old, like Android version 2 devices, but all the Android 4 are supported. So you can go down here. These are all the devices that are supported. I don't support a bunch of old Java devices because they have protocol problems that reduce the overall grade. And then this section, you have to really know what you should see here. But basically, all these entries here have an effect on the overall SSL quality and more than likely the signal strength of SSL for Google. And so important things are ALPN should be on and HTTP2 support should be on. NPN should be off. OCSP stapling should be on. HSTS should be on. Both these should be yes. Session resumption, caching, and tickets, both these should be yes. These four right here are your primary, or actually these five here, not NPN because that's no longer supported, but ALPN and these other four here. These are the primary, how can I say this? These are the primary determining factor as to whether your SSL is fast or slow. And so you can have HTTP support and SSL running and it can be correct, and it can be as slow as Christmas. So you have to have these all set up correctly. And this is all a function of your hosting company, unless you are running dedicated iron and doing your own admin and know how to set all this up, which I wouldn't recommend, because it took me years to figure out how to get this set up correct. Also, you need to set up this elliptical curve, and you either know what that is or don't know. And so if you don't know, then it doesn't matter. And then that's it. Well, one other little minor thing here is you'll notice the version of Apache I'm running, 2.4.2.7. The most recent version is 2.4.2.8, which released, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. And so that'll be packaged and delivered into the repositories I use here very shortly, and I'll be running that too. So to get the highest speed and best security out of sites, which is a whole different matter, you have to run all latest versions of software. And no hosting company I've ever reviewed runs latest versions of software. So if you're looking for best SEO traction and speed and stability, you got to use a hosting company which runs latest versions of software, which means you either got to host with someone like me, or you have to set up your own iron, your own dedicated server, and install all this stuff and keep it up to date on a regular basis. So those are your only two options. So anyway, that's a little bit of an overview of SSL there, and I think that probably pretty much wraps up all the baseline SEO type of activities I go through for all my client sites right now, and also my personal sites.